Welcome to Carrington, as really we're touching base here in front of our own Sky cameras for the first time to see Michael Carrick's side in training, of course with his new backroom staff, the likes of Jonathan Woodgate, Steve Holland, Johnny Evans, all present as well, Travis Binion too. And to give you some kind of team news immediately, I can let you know that Matthias de Ligt, Joshua Zirkzee not in training this morning. Now de Ligt's missed the last 9 Premier League games with injury, and Joshua Zirkzee we saw in the stands for the Manchester derby looks unlikely to be involved against Arsenal, you could say, for this weekend. We'll see if he's back for Fulham the following weekend, but of course this group of players will be still pretty jubilant and really pleased with what was probably their best performance, of course, this season against Manchester City in that 2-0 win in the Manchester derby on Saturday.
And Dan, obviously there's been a lot of talk about who is leading training. Right now it looks like Michael Carrick is pretty hands-on. What's been the roles and responsibilities of Steve Holland, Jonathan Woodgate, Johnny Evans? What have you noticed?
Well, it's very interesting, Leanne. I mean, first of all, before the players came out, I can tell you what kind of we just saw on the eye, and as a group they were looking to plan the session, and it's very interesting with Michael Carrick. I mean, we saw it at Middlesbrough, we saw it under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer during his time at the club, that Michael Carrick, as well as Kieran McKenna, we knew led a lot of the sessions at that time in this club's history. Carrick very hands-on in terms of his coaching, and then you have his assistant next to him, Jonathan Woodgate, who was his assistant at Middlesbrough, of course, helps lead the sessions. But then you have the balance of 2 relatively newer coaches, and those 2 with Steve Holland as well, with that experience, of course, at Chelsea for so many years, as well as England, being, the right-hand man to Gareth Southgate as well. But even his reputation at England was very much the hands-on coaching day-to-day, running drills. So it's all very interesting and clearly a very different setup to maybe under Ruben Amorim.
And Dan, for someone like yourself, right, that's been around the club, last couple of years now, what have you noticed they brought to the team? Because I'm not having that the players turned on that performance in just 3 days of him being there. So what do you think he's done that's like magically turned things around so quickly?
It's really interesting, Leanne. I mean, I think, it'll be little things like perhaps making their days at the training ground short. I'm sure you can relate, Leanne, to when you were playing. Different coaches have different methods, and of course this team has 1 game a week, and from what I've been told, the way their days look at the moment are a bit shorter, a bit more intense while they're here at Carrington, but they also have a bit more of that free time, and maybe just around the training ground everything feels a bit less intense, I would probably say is fair. I mean, when we arrived, the players came out and they all seemed very happy to say hello to Carrick. And I'm not saying they didn't under Amorim, but clearly there were some unhappy players in this squad. The likes of Kobbie Mainoo put in a man of the match performance against City, his first league start, would you believe it, on Saturday. Just think all of that contributes to what seems like a more positive atmosphere. But what I'll tell you, Leanne, is of course they have Arsenal this weekend, but I don't know if you agree, I feel like the bigger game is almost against Fulham the following week at Old Trafford, to see how they'll look to play week to week.
Yeah, and in terms of players, you mentioned Kobbie Mainoo there. Which players do you think will benefit most from this change of head coach?
Well, change of head coach brings a change of system, doesn't it, Tom? And as we saw against Manchester City, they defended 4-4-2, but went forward in a bit more of a 4-2-3-1. And Kobbie Mainoo, of course, really benefited from that. I mean, we saw all of his talent on that occasion. But really, I mean, you look at a lot of these players, I mean, you could almost, look, I've said all month that United are unlikely to do any business this window, but you almost hope that some of these players could be like new signings. I mean, Manuel Ugarte is someone who has struggled a little bit in the last, 6 to 8 months or so with his form, but he had a positive cameo on the weekend. Patrick Dorgu was absolutely fantastic in the Manchester derby, but also following a bit more of an upward trajectory in the last few weeks as well. So you do feel like there's a lot more potential in the squad that wasn't maybe being exploited under Ruben Amorim, and that all feels a lot more positive, especially when you consider that they have 1 game a week. They have so much more time on the training ground than all of their competitors around them chasing that Champions League spot, and that has to be a benefit, and that's what Michael Carrick and his staff will be trying to deliver in these sessions that hopefully go into more positive results. I mean, this United team have really struggled to put together consistent results, and that will be the biggest challenge for this team, I think, post-Arsenal, whatever happens in that game after the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, thank you.
Nice one, Dan, thanks.